Hey everyone, this is my sharing video on AJAX. So to start off, AJAX stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. The main uses of it are, I guess what it does is updates the XML page or the HTML page automatically um, without having to reload the page. So it's it first got heavily used when they did the Google search engine. When you start searching something, then it gives you options. It pops up the different popular search options, and it's used a lot for apps when push notifications, when you get an automatic notification without reloading the app or the page. So I'm going to share my screen and show the examples and go through AJAX and the syntax. So this is my understanding portfolio. I've got the code that I had from W3 Schools, and then this is the working example, and then my code that is very similar, but I changed it, went through and made sure that I was doing everything right when I changed it, and I got this is my working example. So how it works is simply you have the code within the code is within the head. This script so that has all the function. It's all within the head of the HTML document, and then this div, this section is this right here. So when I click change content, it's going to call the load XML doc function, and then this function is going to run, and then this new text file is what it is, will be displayed on the web page. So the browser didn't have to reload, but it just inserted this. This is a very basic simple of AJAX, and then mine works very similar. So this div this div calls the refresh XML doc, and so it puts this text, which is a text I inserted. This new text, isn't it great? Imagine what you could do. I think that's supposed to be an exclamation mark, not a question mark. So I'm going to go through the syntax of it. I'll use my code for an example. So first you need the script in the head tag, as I mentioned, and then you're going to write out the function. The function can be anything you want it to be called. You just need to make sure that you're calling it in the with the button or whatever calls the function to act or to be run. Then you have your variable. This variable can be here it's XML HTTP. I don't think it doesn't have to be XML HTTP. I think you can have it whatever you want for when you're doing AJAX. Then you have your if and else statement. So you have your if window.xml HTTP request. This has to be window.xml.http request in that format, because that is what allows the program to know what is to know what it's doing. And then for Internet Explorer 7 and up, Firefox, Chrome, Opera, and Safari, you're able to use XML HTTP equals new, and then the XML HTTP request. This is calling that. If the users aren't using Internet Explorer 7 and up, and they're using 6 or 5, then you'll have to have this in there. It allows the browser to call on the AJAX operator, and so it needs to be a little different. So then the else is closed, and so we move on to the XML HTTP onReady state change equals function. So this is for the it stores a function or the name of a function that is called every time the ready state property is changed. So every time this ready state is changed, then it'll call this function. So in this if, we've got XML HTTP ready state equals 4 and XML HTTP status equals 200. So the ready state, this can be 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and this can be 200 or 404. When it's 4 and 200, it means the page is ready. When the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 just signals different statuses that the page loading is in. So for it to work, you want it to be 4 and 200. If you do 404, then it'll update the page to be a 404 page not found. So we don't want that. Then we go to the document. So this, when it says the page is ready, when the code is telling the browser that the page is ready, then you write document.getElementById, this div. So this is when we're writing to or sending it to this div. So you put the name of your div here, the one that you're going to assign this div to, the ID of it, and then inner HTML equals XML.HTTP. So you want this to match this variable. Response text. So when you have response text here, it will put whatever it's calling into a string. So if you have a whole document and then you put response text here, then it will insert all of your whole document or whatever you're inserting into the page as a text string. So that's definitely an option. That's what I did here. So it caused this to become a string. In the code, this is 2 different lines, but it inserts it as a text string. It won't insert it as an XML or as a formatted document. So it's depending on what you're wanting to do. It's definitely something you need to pay attention to, is response text. The other thing you can do is response XML. The response XML gets the response data as XML data rather than a string. So what happens is when you want your data displayed as your XML document has it written, then you want to parse it as an XML object. So you put response XML, the response XML property here. So then we go to the XML.HTTP open and send. So these 2 properties, it comes with a little bit more. It comes with a couple more variables, whatever you call these. So the get, there's 2 different objects you can put here. There's get or there's post. So get, it allows the what am I trying to say? So, oh yeah, get is simpler and faster than post. And it's used in most cases. Post isn't used nearly as commonly, but you always want to use post when there's a cache file isn't an option, so you don't have a cache file on the file or on this database on the server, or sending a large amount of data to the server, because the post doesn't have any size limitations. And then sending user input, which contains which can contain unknown characters. So it's also more robust and more secure than get. So get is simple and fast, but if you're using things that are on your database or server, or you're using user input, such as like the Google example that I talked about, you want to make sure that you're using post, because then it allows for unknown characters. So then you put in the URL of the file that you're trying to change your text to. So in this case, I have a file under in the database. So I have a file named AJAX files, and then a file within that is AJAX example.txt. So this file needs to be stored on the server as well, so that it can find it, because I'm using get rather than post. So you need to make sure that the URL is correct. I tried it with a / in front of the AJAX, but for some reason it didn't recognize it. So you need to make sure that it's just the file name and then the / and then the name of your file. And the last part is true. So you can either have true or false. True is asynchronous and false is synchronous. For the most part, you always want to use true. Yeah, so you for the most part, you always want to use true, because it is asynchronous rather than synchronous. And then so the next line, xml.http.send. So you can either have send or you can have string. The string is used only for post requests. So when you have a post request here, then you would put string here rather than send. Send just lets the browser know that you're sending the this file to the browser, so it'll output it. So that's all that's the syntax for the AJAX code. And then you'll have your div. This is very similar to all the other divs, or all the other output divs that you'll have for JavaScript and whatnot. So you have your div ID this div. So I'm making sure that this is the same as, so it's posting whatever it's calling here to this div, and then this text is the text that will change. So if we go back, I refresh the page. So this is the text that will change. That's the text that will show on the page when the page is loaded, and then I have it as a heading, H2, and then the button type. So this is just creating the button on click. You want to make sure that it's calling the correct function. So I have two buttons here. So this button this, that's not what I wanted to do, sorry. This button is calling this function, and this button is calling this function, because there's two different functions on the page. So I want to make sure that's the same as well. And then this just inputs the words on the button. So when we push the button, the function runs, and then the text that was in my text file. So that is AJAX and basic simple, my understanding of AJAX anyway. I don't think there's anything that I missed. Just gotta make sure that I did get everything. Yeah, I believe that is everything. So that's my sharing video. So if you have any questions, or if there's any confusion, let me know and I'll try to answer your questions. And thank you very much for watching.